If someone had described this future to me on my first day at Arctis Station, Lily mused, I would have thought they were completely delusional. Indeed, Rahl agreed with the subtle humor that had become more frequent in their private interactions. A human officer and Zarvian security specialist, joint commanders of an interspecies outpost, raising 3 alien children together, the statistical probability would have seemed negligible. And yet, here we are. Lily gazed out at the stars, thinking of all the worlds circling those distant points of light, the countless stories unfolding across the vastness of space. I've been thinking about coincidence lately. Your concept of Ithrin, paths aligning when they must for necessary purposes. You find merit in the philosophy? Rahl asked, genuine interest in his tone. I'm not sure about predetermined paths, Lily replied thoughtfully. But I do believe some connections are significant, meaningful beyond simple chance. She turned to face him directly. Meeting you, finding the children, these weren't just random events. They changed who I am in fundamental ways. Rahl considered her words with characteristic care. The Zarvian understanding of Ithrin does not necessarily imply predetermination, he clarified. Rather, it suggests that beings of compatible purpose will naturally find each other when circumstances allow. The paths exist because of who we already are, not to make us into something we are not. Compatible purpose, Lily repeated, finding the concept deeply resonant. That describes us well, I think. Different approaches, different backgrounds, but fundamentally aligned in what matters most. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the stars bearing witness to their reflection. Then, with the directness that characterized their relationship, Lily addressed what had been evolving between them over the months since their arrival at Unity Station. Our partnership has grown beyond its original parameters, she stated simply. What began as a practical arrangement has become something more personal. Yes, Rahl acknowledged, his violet eyes meeting hers directly. Among my people, such evolution would be considered the natural progression of Kvadith, souls aligned in meaningful work finding deeper resonance over time. Humans have various terms for it, Lily replied with a slight smile. But perhaps the simplest is just to say that I've developed feelings for you that go beyond our original agreement. The admission hung in the space between them, honest, unembellished, and offered without expectation. Lily had learned that Zarvian emotional expression was typically more reserved than human norms, and she respected those cultural differences even as she remained true to her own nature. Rahl's response, when it came, perfectly balanced his Zarbian heritage with his growing comfort in human-style emotional communication. I find myself experiencing parallel sentiments, he said carefully. A connection that transcends our practical partnership and enriches my existence in ways I had not anticipated. By human standards, it might have seemed a restrained declaration. But Lily had learned to read the subtle indicators of Zarvian emotion, the slight softening around the eyes, the particular cadence of speech, the almost imperceptible shift in posture that signaled profound feeling. So where do we go from here? She asked practically. Our formal partnership works well for our command structure and family legal status. But perhaps the personal dimension deserves its own consideration. A characteristically balanced approach, Rahl observed with warm appreciation, acknowledging evolution without disrupting what functions effectively. Exactly, Lily confirmed. We've never followed conventional patterns anyway. Why start now? The conversation might have continued, but a soft alert from the children's sleeping area drew their attention. Mila experiencing one of the nightmares that still occasionally troubled her sleep. Without discussion, they moved together to provide comfort, Lily gathering the small Mithrani child into her arms while Rahl activated the gentle illumination that helped dispel fear. The dark place again? Lily asked softly, stroking the child's delicate head crest. Mila nodded, her large eyes still wide with lingering fear. But different this time. I couldn't find any of you. We are right here, Rahl assured her, his deep voice carrying the reassurance the child needed. And we will always be here when you need us. Promise? Mila asked, her small hand reaching for his larger one. Promise, they confirmed in unison, the synchronicity of their response reflecting the deeper harmony that had developed between them. As Mila gradually relaxed back into sleep, secure in the presence of both her adoptive parents, Lily and Rawl exchanged a glance that conveyed volumes without words. Whatever shape their personal relationship might take as it continued to evolve, the foundation was already firmly established. A partnership based on shared values, mutual respect, and absolute commitment to the family they had created together. In that moment, surrounded by the quiet evidence of the life they had built from the most unlikely beginnings, both recognized that labels and formal definitions mattered far less than the reality they experienced every day. They were partners in the truest sense, companions who strengthened each other, who balanced each other's perspectives, who had chosen to face life's challenges and celebrations side by side. And as Unity Station continued its orbit through the vastness of space, carrying its remarkable family toward whatever adventures awaited them, the stars remained constant witnesses to a truth as old as sentient life itself. That connection across difference was not just possible, but essential. The vibrant thread that wove disparate beings into the complex, beautiful tapestry of shared existence. What had begun with a routine cargo inspection on a remote border station had blossomed into something no regulation or protocol could have predicted or prescribed. Lieutenant Lily Astor and Officer Rawl Jen had discovered, through the rescue of 3 vulnerable children, not just a family, but a purpose larger than themselves. And in that purpose, they had found each other. It wasn't the assignment either of them had expected. But as they sat together in the quiet darkness, keeping watch over the sleeping child who had entrusted her heart to their care, both knew with absolute certainty that it was exactly where they were meant to be. The end watching as the outreach station came into view for the first time. The structure was impressive, a blend of human and Zarvian design principles with additional elements from other Alliance species, creating a physical embodiment of the cooperation they hoped to foster. "It's beautiful," Sela murmured, her amber skin glowing with excitement as she pressed closer to the viewport. The Eridani child had grown noticeably more expressive in recent weeks, her natural curiosity emerging as her sense of security strengthened. Mila added softly, the Mithrani child's simple declaration carrying profound meaning for all of them. Rawl joined them at the viewport, Krell balanced comfortably on his shoulder to provide the Taurian child a better view. Unity Station, he confirmed, using the facility's official designation. Designed to serve as both diplomatic hub and cultural exchange center for this sector. And research facility, Lily added, thinking of the specialized laboratories that would enable Dr. Alera to continue her work studying the children's unique physiological needs. The doctor had requested permanent assignment to the station, her commitment to her young patients evolving into a broader research interest in interspecies medical protocols. As they approached the docking bay, Lily reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. The formal inquiry into the trafficking network had expanded far beyond Arctis Station, revealing connections that stretched across multiple sectors. Castiel Blackmoon and his associates now faced prosecution for crimes that violated the most fundamental principles of the Alliance, with Commander Voss providing testimony in exchange for consideration in his own sentencing. More importantly, policy reforms were already being implemented to strengthen protections for vulnerable populations throughout Alliance space, a legacy that would benefit countless children beyond the 3 who had catalyzed these changes through their courage and resilience. "What are you thinking about?" Rawl asked quietly, noticing her contemplative expression. "How a routine cargo inspection changed everything," Lily replied with a small smile. "If we hadn't been assigned that particular ship on that particular day, the Zarvian concept of Ithrin suggests there are no coincidences in matters of profound importance," Rawl observed. "That paths align when they must for necessary purposes. Fate," Lily suggested. "Perhaps, or simply the natural convergence of those willing to stand for what is right, even when difficult." Their philosophical discussion was interrupted by the gentle vibration of the ship docking with the station. Captain Naraven's voice came over the communication system, formally welcoming them to Unity Station and announcing the completion of their journey. As they prepared to disembark, Admiral Wei appeared in the passenger lounge. A surprise, as they hadn't expected her to personally oversee their arrival. Commander asked her, "Commander Jin." She greeted them with the new ranks that had accompanied their joint appointment. "Welcome to your new command." Her usually stern expression softened as she acknowledged the children. "And welcome to you three as well. I trust the journey was comfortable." "We saw 17 different star systems," Krell reported enthusiastically. "And Captain Vin let us visit the bridge during regular operations." "Excellent," Wei replied with unusual warmth. "Education should be experiential whenever possible." She turned her attention back to Lily and Raul. "Everything is prepared according to your specifications. The family quarters are adjacent to the command center for convenience, and the Children's Learning Center has been fully equipped with appropriate materials for each of their species." "Thank you, Admiral," Lily acknowledged, genuinely moved by the care that had been taken to support their unique family needs. "We appreciate your continued backing in this assignment." "The Alliance was founded on principles of cooperation across differences," Wei replied simply. "Your family embodies those principles in the most fundamental way. Supporting you is not merely personal favor. It is investment in the future we claim to value." With those words, she led them through the airlock and onto the station that would become their home. The central promenade was lined with representatives from various species serving on the station, all standing at respectful attention to welcome their new commanders. As they walked the ceremonial path toward the command center, Lily felt a small hand slip into hers, Sela, seeking connection amid the overwhelming new experience. On her other side, Raul carried Mila, while Krell walked confidently between them, taking in every detail of their new environment with characteristic curiosity. They were, by any conventional definition, an unusual family. Human and Zarvian adults with children from 3 different species, brought together by circumstances no one could have predicted. Yet as they moved forward together, their steps naturally falling into unified rhythm, Lily recognized that they had created something both rare and precious. A family defined not by sameness, but by choice, commitment, and the courage to recognize kinship across the boundaries that so often divided the universe. That evening, after the formal ceremonies had concluded and they were finally alone in their new quarters, Lily found herself standing on the private observation deck attached to their home. The vast expanse of stars stretched before her, each point of light representing worlds with their own stories, challenges, and possibilities. Raul joined her, standing close enough that their shoulders nearly touched, a proximity that had become comfortable, even welcome, in recent weeks. "The children are asleep," he reported, exhausted but content. "Krell wants to begin exploration of the station's educational facilities first thing tomorrow." "Of course he does," Lily replied with warm amusement. The Taurian child's thirst for knowledge was insatiable, a quality that both human and Zarvian cultures deeply valued. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, each absorbing the reality of their new life. When Lily finally spoke, it was to give voice to the reflection that had been building within her throughout this transformative journey. "When I was assigned to Arctis Station, I saw it as a setback, border duty after active combat service. I expected to put in my time and transfer back to a real assignment as soon as possible." She turned to face her partner directly. "I never imagined finding purpose there, let alone a family," Raul completed when she hesitated. "Understand. My own posting was chosen as a form of atonement, a way to serve where I believed I could begin making amends for the civilian casualties I witnessed during the war. And now I believe we have discovered a different kind of service, one that builds rather than repairs, that creates rather than compensates." His violet eyes held a depth of emotion that once would have been unreadable to her, but which she now recognized as profound contentment. "Through the children, we are not merely addressing past wounds, but investing in future possibilities." "Future possibilities," Lily echoed thoughtfully. "Like this station, a place where different species learn to understand each other, to work together despite their differences. Or because of them, Rawl suggested. Diversity as strength rather than obstacle. The philosophy resonated deeply with what they were creating together. A family that celebrated rather than merely tolerated their differences, finding in their varied perspectives and abilities a richer, more complete whole. A soft sound from the children's sleeping area drew their attention. Lily moved automatically to check, Rawl following close behind. They found Mila awake, her large eyes luminous in the dimmed lighting. "Bad dream?" Lily asked gently, sitting on the edge of the child's sleeping platform. The Mithrani child nodded, reaching out to be held. Lily gathered her close, the small body fitting perfectly against her as if they had always belonged. Together. "Would you like to tell us about it?" Rawl asked, settling beside them. "I was back in a dark place," Mila whispered, with the burning inside. But then, her expression shifted, fear giving way to wonder. "But then I remembered I'm not there anymore. I'm here with you. And Krell and Sela." "That's right," Lily assured her, stroking the child's delicate head crest soothingly. "You're safe now. We're all together. Forever?" Mila asked, the question becoming something of a ritual between them, a reassurance the child still needed to hear regularly. "Forever," Rawl confirmed, his large hand gently covering both Mila's small one and Lily's where they met. "Family is forever." The simple affirmation seemed to satisfy the Mithrani child, who gradually relaxed against Lily's chest, her breathing evening out as sleep reclaimed her. Yet neither adult moved to return her to her sleeping platform immediately, both savoring the moment of connection. In that quiet hour, surrounded by the stars that had witnessed their extraordinary journey from strangers to partners to parents, Lieutenant Lily Astor and Officer Rawl Jen had created something that transcended the boundaries of species, culture, and convention. They had found, in the most unexpected of circumstances, a home defined not by walls or borders, but by the bonds between hearts that recognized each other across the vast distances of the universe. And as Unity Station continued its silent orbit through space, 5 beings from 4 different worlds slept peacefully under the same roof. Pioneers of a different kind of exploration, one that charted the unmapped territories of love, family, and belonging in a galaxy still learning how to bridge its many differences. The children would grow and flourish in this unique environment, carrying forward the lesson embedded in their very existence. That family could be found in the most unexpected places, that connection could transcend difference, and that sometimes the most important frontiers to explore were not between stars, but between hearts. For Lily and Rawl, who had once viewed their assignment to Arctis Station as a detour from their real purpose, the greatest discovery had been that purpose often revealed itself in unexpected ways, through choices made in crucial moments, through the courage to stand for what was right even when difficult, and through the willingness to open oneself to connections that defied conventional categories. They had embarked on a routine cargo inspection and found instead a calling, a family, and a future they could never have imagined but now could not imagine living without. And in that transformation lay a truth as vast and luminous as the stars themselves, that the universe's greatest gifts often came disguised as its greatest challenges, waiting only for those brave enough to receive them. As dawn approached on their first full day at Unity Station, Lily carefully returned the sleeping Mila to her platform, tucking the coverings around her small form with practiced tenderness. Rawl waited by the doorway, a silent presence radiating calm assurance. Together, they performed a final check on all 3 children, a ritual that had quickly become as natural as breathing, before returning to the observation deck where their conversation had begun. "We should rest too," Rawl suggested practically. "Tomorrow brings the formal start of our command responsibilities." Lily nodded, though her mind was still filled with the reflection their midnight interruption had inspired. "I keep thinking about what Admiral Way said, about our family embodying the principles the Alliance was founded on." An astute observation, Rawl acknowledged, though perhaps more profound than even she realized. How so? The Alliance was created out of necessity, different species cooperating initially for survival against a common threat. But if it is to endure beyond immediate necessity, it must evolve into something sustained by choice and conviction rather than merely circumstance. His gaze turned to the stars beyond the viewport. Perhaps families like ours represent that evolution, connection maintained not because it is required, but because it is valued. The insight resonated deeply, articulating something Lily had felt but not fully formed into conscious thought. Their family had indeed begun from necessity, the rescue of vulnerable children with nowhere else to go, but had quickly transformed into something chosen and cherished for its own sake. From necessity to choice, she murmured. That's the journey, isn't it? For us, for the Alliance, maybe for the galaxy itself. Rawl's expression conveyed agreement, along with something else, a warmth that had grown increasingly evident in his interactions with her. Whatever formal reasons had initiated their partnership, something more personal had developed alongside it, a connection neither had anticipated but both now valued deeply. We should sleep, Lily acknowledged finally, turning away from the stars. Tomorrow is the beginning of something new. As they moved through their quarters toward their separate sleeping chambers, a Zarvian convention honoring the species' need for solitary meditation periods, Rawl paused briefly. Lieutenant, he began, then corrected himself with a slight smile. Lily, I am grateful that our paths converged at Arctis Station. The simple statement contained layers of meaning that needed no elaboration between them. Lily returned his smile, allowing herself to acknowledge the depth of connection that had developed between them, a bond that complemented and supported their shared commitment to their children. So am I, Rawl, she replied simply. More than I can say. As Unity Station continued its silent journey through space, carrying its remarkable family toward a future filled with both challenges and possibilities, the stars remained constant witnesses to the unfolding story. One small chapter in the vast narrative of a universe, still learning how different worlds could come together, not despite their differences, but because of them, creating connections that bridged the darkness between distant suns. And in the heart of that learning, in the quiet spaces between duty and discovery, Lily Astor and Rawl Jen had found something neither had been seeking, but both had somehow needed, a family crafted from the most unlikely beginnings, bound together by choice rather than circumstance, stronger for the journey that had brought them together. It wasn't the assignment either of them had expected, but standing at the threshold of their new life, both recognized it was precisely where they were meant to be, aligned in purpose, united in commitment, and facing whatever came next, together. The next morning brought the official commencement of their duties as joint commanders of Unity Station. The command center hummed with efficient activity as personnel from various Alliance species coordinated the complex operations required to maintain the outpost's multiple functions. Lily and Rawl moved through their responsibilities with the seamless coordination that had developed during their time at Arctis Station, enhanced now by formal protocols designed for their shared command structure. Where once their differences had seemed potential obstacles, they now functioned as complementary strengths. Lily's decisive tactical approach balancing perfectly with Rawl's methodical analytical style. The children, meanwhile, were introduced to the station's educational center, where instructors specializing in multi-species pedagogy welcomed them with thoughtful preparation for each child's unique needs. Krell immediately gravitated toward the scientific modules, while Sela showed unexpected interest in diplomatic protocols, and Mila found comfort in the artistic expression area. That evening, gathered in their family quarters for the shared meal that had become an important ritual, they exchanged stories of their first day in their new home. Teacher Valeth says, I can join the advanced astronomy group even though I'm younger than the others, Krell announced proudly, his ridged forehead flushed with the Taurian equivalent of excitement. We'll be mapping stellar anomalies in this sector. That's wonderful, Lily encouraged, helping Mila with her specially prepared food. The Mithrani digestive system required particular enzymes not common in standard Alliance cuisine. What about you, Sela? The Eridani child's amber skin rippled slightly, a sign of enthusiasm in her species. We learn about the Great Concord Ceremony, how the Alliance was formed after the war. The teacher said I asked excellent questions about the different cultural protocols. An important area of study, Rawl noted approvingly. Understanding how different species communicate their intentions prevents many conflicts before they begin. Mila, still the quietest of the three, simply offered, I made this, presenting a small sculpture crafted from malleable compound. The abstract form somehow captured the essence of Unity Station's distinctive architecture while imbuing it with organic qualities that reflected the Mithrani aesthetic. It's beautiful, Lily said sincerely, carefully accepting the delicate creation. You've captured the station perfectly. The small Mithrani beamed with quiet pride, her confidence growing with each day of safety and encouragement. As the meal concluded and the children prepared for their evening routine, a priority communication alert sounded on both Lily and Rawl's official channels. Admiral Way requesting immediate contact. They moved to the secure communication console in the adjacent office space, activating the encrypted channel with shared access codes. Way's image appeared, her expression serious but not alarming. Commanders, I apologize for the interruption to your family time, but I wanted you to hear this directly from me. Before the official announcement. What's happened, Admiral? Lily asked, professional focus immediately engaged. The Alliance Security Council voted unanimously this morning to implement the Arctis protocols, the comprehensive reform package addressing protection of displaced miners throughout Alliance space. Way's expression softened slightly. The legislation bears that name in recognition of where the catalyst for these changes originated. Rawl inclined his head slightly, a Zarvian gesture of profound acknowledgement, a fitting tribute to ensure such exploitation cannot happen again. Additionally, Way continued, the Council has approved establishment of a specialized interspecies adoption agency to be headquartered at Unity Station, with the specific mandate of addressing the needs of orphan children from conflict zones. She paused briefly. They've requested that you both serve as honorary advisors, given your unique perspective. The news was momentous, institutional change that would extend far beyond their individual actions, potentially benefiting countless children throughout Alliance space. We would be honored to assist, Lily confirmed, speaking for both of them. This addresses systemic vulnerabilities we observed firsthand. Indeed, Way's expression conveyed genuine satisfaction. Sometimes it takes a dramatic case to illuminate long-standing problems. Your actions at Arctis Station created the opportunity for reform that many of us have been advocating for years. After the communication ended, Lily and Rawl stood in thoughtful silence, absorbing the implications of this development. What had begun as their personal commitment to 3 specific children had expanded to influence policy affecting thousands more throughout Alliance territory. From necessity to choice, Rawl observed quietly, echoing Lily's words from the previous night. From reaction to proactive change. From saving 3 children to potentially helping many more, Lily added, a sense of purpose filling her that went beyond anything she had experienced in her military career. They returned to the main living area to find all 3 children waiting expectantly, clearly curious about the official communication. Is everything okay? Krell asked, his protective instincts toward his new family evident in his tone. More than okay, Lily assured him, sitting down so that she could meet the children at eye level, a practice that had become second nature in their interactions. Remember how he told you that what happened to you shouldn't happen to any children? All 3 nodded solemnly. The Alliance has just created new rules to help make sure it doesn't, Rawl explained. And they're asking for our help to make those rules work properly. Sela's expression brightened with understanding. So other children won't be taken from their homes? Or if they lose their homes like we did, they'll find new families faster. Exactly, Lily confirmed, impressed as always by the Eridani child's perceptiveness. And it's happening partly because of you 3, because you were brave enough to trust us when we found you, and because your story helped important people understand what needed to change. The children absorbed this information with varying reactions. Krell with solemn pride, Sela with thoughtful curiosity, and Mila with quiet wonder. For children who had been treated as commodities, Learning that their experiences had value and could help others was profoundly validating. Does this mean other families will be like ours? Mila asked softly, with different kinds of parents and children together. So might be, Raul answered gently. Each family forms in its own way, shaped by the specific beings who create it together. Ours is pretty good, Krell decided with the directness characteristic of his species. Even if we don't all look the same. Especially because we don't all look the same, Lily suggested, feeling a surge of affection for their remarkable family unit. Our differences make us stronger together. As they continued their evening routine, stories from various cultural traditions, preparation for rest cycles, the small rituals that had quickly become the framework of their family life. Lily found herself reflecting on how profoundly her perspective had shifted since that fateful day at Arctis Station, where once she had seen alien species through the lens of difference and potential threat. She now recognized the rich variety of sentient experience as something to be celebrated rather than merely tolerated. Where she had valued independence and self-sufficiency above all, she now understood the profound strength that came from genuine connection and interdependence. Most significantly, where she had once viewed her military career as her primary identity and purpose, she now recognized that her role as part of this extraordinary family represented her most meaningful contribution to the universe they all shared. Later that night, after the children were settled in their sleeping chambers, Lily found Raul on their private observation deck, engaged in the Zarvian meditation practice that was part of his evening routine. Rather than withdrawing to avoid disturbing him, she quietly took a seat nearby, content to share the peaceful moment. After completing his meditation, Raul acknowledged her presence with a warm glance. The children are adapting well to their new environment, he observed. Their resilience continues to impress me. Children are remarkably adaptable, Lily agreed. But they also need stability, which we're providing now. Indeed, Raul's expression conveyed thoughtful consideration. I've been reflecting on how our understanding of family has evolved through this experience. Zarvian cultural tradition emphasizes lineage and genetic continuity, yet I find our created family no less meaningful for lacking those elements. Human cultures have varied widely on that point throughout our history, Lily noted. But many have recognized that families formed through choice and commitment can be just as real and significant as those created through biological connection. Perhaps that is the next evolution for the alliance itself, Raul suggested. Moving beyond cooperation based on necessity toward connection valued for its own inherent worth. The philosophical observation resonated with Lily's own reflections. Their partnership had indeed evolved from practical necessity towards something chosen and valued independently of its original purpose, a microcosm of the larger transformation they hoped to see throughout Alliance space. Speaking of evolution, she said, shifting to a more personal topic, I've been thinking about our formal partnership arrangement. Raul turned toward her, giving her his full attention. What aspects have you been considering? When we established it, the primary motivation was practical, creating the legal framework to support our guardianship of the children. Lily found herself choosing her words carefully, wanting to express precisely what she had come to understand. But I've realized that my feelings about our partnership have developed beyond those practical considerations. Understanding dawned in Raul's expression, a warmth that reflected his own evolution on this subject. As have mine, he acknowledged. What began as alignment and purpose has grown to include personal dimensions I had not anticipated. The admission, modest though it might seem by human standards of emotional expression, represented significant vulnerability for a Zarvian. Lily recognized and honored the trust it represented. I don't have a specific proposal for how we address this evolution, she continued with characteristic directness. Just an acknowledgement that it exists and that I'm open to exploring what it might mean for us moving forward. A characteristically balanced approach, Raul observed with a subtle humor that had become more evident in their private interactions. Neither rushing ahead nor denying what has developed naturally between us. We've never done anything in the conventional order, Lily pointed out with a smile. Why start now? Their conversation was interrupted by the station's communication system. Not an emergency alert, but a scheduled transmission from Earth that Lily had been expecting. Her family there had been slowly adjusting to the news of her extraordinary life changes, from joint command of Unity Station to the adoption of 3 alien children. Do you want privacy for this call? Raul asked, beginning to rise. Stay, Lily requested simply. They should get to know you better. We're all family now, after all. As the communication connected and the faces of Lily's parents appeared on the screen, their initial surprise at Raul's presence giving way to genuine interest in conversation with their daughter's partner. Another small but significant bridge was formed across the distances of space, culture, and experience. The universe was vast, and difference was constant. But in the connections formed despite and because of those differences, whether between individuals, families, or worlds, lay the true promise of what sentient beings might accomplish together. Not uniform sameness, but harmonious diversity. Not forced conformity, but chosen unity. For Lily Astor and Raul Jin, what had begun as a routine cargo inspection had opened the door to that profound truth, changing not only their own lives, but potentially countless others throughout Alliance space. And as they sat together under the light of distant stars, their children sleeping peacefully nearby, both recognized that sometimes the most important discoveries weren't made in deep space or distant worlds, but in the quiet moments of connection that bridged the vast darkness between individual hearts, regardless of the planets that had birthed them. 6 months after establishing their new life at Unity Station, a formal ceremony marked both the official inauguration of the Interspecies Adoption Agency and the final legal confirmation of Krell, Sela, and Mila's adoption by Lily and Raul. The event, attended by officials from throughout the Alliance, including Admiral Wei, represented both personal milestone and public policy advancement. Following the tradition begun on their first night at Unity Station, the family gathered on their private observation deck after the ceremonies concluded and the official guests departed. The children, dressed in formal attire that respected their various cultural traditions while incorporating elements from both human and Zarvian design, were unusually quiet, processing the significance of the day in their own ways. Does this mean everything is finally official? Krell asked eventually, his practical nature seeking clarity. No more documents or ceremonies? Everything is completely official, Lily confirmed, though there never really was any doubt. This was just the formal recognition catching up with what we already knew. That we're a family, Sela stated with quiet certainty. Exactly, Raul affirmed. Today simply allowed the rest of the Alliance to acknowledge what we have understood from the beginning. Mila, who had been studying the stars visible through the viewport, turned to face them all with uncommon solemnity. I remember the stars from before, she said softly, when we were in the dark place. I used to look at them and wonder if anyone out there would help us. Her simple statement captured the extraordinary journey they had traveled together, from desperate circumstances to a secure, loving family unit. From isolation to connection. From fear to hope. Someone did help, Krell reminded her, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. And now we're helping others too. Indeed, the new adoption agency had already begun its work, with several children from conflict zones placed with carefully vetted families throughout Alliance space. The Arctis protocols had been fully implemented, creating protective systems designed to prevent the exploitation they had uncovered from recurring. The first group of family support specialists completed their training yesterday, Lily noted, sharing information that would interest the children. They'll be deployed to refugee centers next week to begin identifying children who need placement. Using the assessment methods we helped design, Raul added with justified pride. Their unique experience had proved invaluable in creating protocols that respected the needs and experiences of children from diverse species and circumstances. As the conversation continued, touching on both the day's events and plans for the future, Lily found herself filled with profound gratitude for the extraordinary family they had created together. What had begun in darkness, a smuggler's container on a remote space station, had blossomed into something radiantly alive with possibility. Krell was thriving in advanced scientific studies, his natural intelligence nurtured by educators who recognized his potential. Sela had revealed unexpected diplomatic talents, already serving as a youth ambassador in cultural exchange programs. And Mila, once so withdrawn and frightened, had found her voice through art, her creations now displayed throughout Unity Station as symbols of interspecies harmony. And beyond their individual achievements, the children had become something more together. Siblings who supported each other across the boundaries of species and experience, who understood each other's needs and capabilities in ways that even their adoptive parents sometimes couldn't fully grasp. Later that evening, after the children had retired to their sleeping chambers, Lily and Rawl remained on the observation deck, contemplating both the day's significance and the journey that had brought them to this point. If someone had described this future to me on my first day at Arctis Station, Lily mused, I would have thought they were completely delusional. Stay low and follow me, she instructed tersely, gesturing for the doctor to gather the children. Move quickly, but silently. Dr. Alara, to her credit, responded with immediate understanding. She shepherded the frightened children toward Lily, whispering reassurances as they moved. For security officers, she murmured to Lily. They arrived 5 minutes ago. I barely had time to hide the children in the storage compartment before they breached the main door. You did well, Lily acknowledged, guiding them toward the maintenance access while the security team was still disoriented. We're evacuating to a Zarvian vessel. Rawl has secured the traffickers as evidence. The smallest child, Mila, stumbled in her exhaustion, a small sound of distress escaping her lips. The noise drew immediate attention from the nearest security officer, who spun toward their position despite the ongoing equipment disruption. There, he shouted, his weapon still cycling through its reboot sequence, but his body moving to intercept. Lily pushed the children and doctor behind her, raising her own weapon. Alliance Security Lieutenant Astor, she announced formally. I am conducting an active investigation into child trafficking. Stand down. The officer hesitated momentarily, the power of military authority briefly overriding his immediate orders. But his companions were already moving to support him, their weapons coming back online as the disruption field began to fade. Lieutenant Astor, you are ordered to surrender the alien subjects and submit to detention. The lead officer responded, his tone suggesting he was following a prepared script. Compliance is mandatory. These are children, not alien subjects, Lily replied coldly, keeping her weapon steady. And they're under my protection. The standoff hung in precarious balance. 4 armed security officers against a single lieutenant protecting 3 frightened children and a civilian doctor. The odds were not in her favor, and every passing second reduced their chance of reaching the Zarvian vessel before station-wide lockdown protocols were initiated. It was Krell who broke the impasse. The young Torian stepped out from behind Lily, his small frame tense but determined as he faced the security team. You are like the others, he said, his voice carrying surprising strength. The ones who took us from our homes, who put the burning things inside us. He pulled up his sleeve, revealing the scar where the implant had been inserted. You know what they did to us, and you still help them. The simple accusation, delivered with a child's direct honesty, visibly affected at least 2 of the officers, their weapons lowering slightly as uncertainty crept into their expressions. We have orders, one of them said, though with noticeably less conviction. So did the people who destroyed my colony, Krell countered. Orders don't make wrong things right. Lily felt a surge of fierce pride for the brave child, even as she maintained her defensive position. You have a choice to make, she told the security team. Follow orders that support child trafficking, or help us expose it. Whatever you decide, we're leaving with these children. The lead officer's communicator activated, Commander Voss's voice emerging with unmistakable anger. Team Alpha, what is your status? Have you secured the alien contraband? The casual dehumanization in the commander's terminology seemed to be the final factor in the decision. The lead officer looked at his team, then back at the children huddled behind Lily. With deliberate slowness, he lowered his weapon. No contraband located in Section 8C, Commander, he reported. continuing search in adjacent sections. "You have 3 minutes," he told Lily quietly. "Then we sound the alert." "Understood." Lily didn't waste time on gratitude or explanations. She immediately guided the children and Dr. Alera into the maintenance passage, sealing the access point behind them. "We need to reach docking bay 12 within those 3 minutes," she explained as they moved rapidly through the narrow corridor. "A Zarvian vessel is waiting to extract us." "The children are still suffering effects from the sedatives," Dr. Alera cautioned. "They can't maintain this pace for long." As if to confirm her warning, Mila stumbled again, her small legs trembling with exhaustion. Without hesitation, Lily scooped the child into her arms, cradling her securely against her chest. "I've got you," she murmured, feeling the Mithrani child trembling against her. "Just hold on a little longer." They continued through the maintenance passages, Lily leading with Mila in her arms, Dr. Alera supporting Sela, and Krell moving with determined independence despite his obvious fatigue. The sound of alert klaxons began to echo through the station. Their 3-minute grace period had expired. Full lockdown protocols initiated. A computerized voice announced through the station's communication system. All personnel returned to quarters. All docking bays sealed pending security verification. "They're cutting off our escape," Dr. Alera realized, her pace quickening despite the strain. "Zarvian vessels have override capabilities," Lily assured her, though privately she wondered if those capabilities would be sufficient against a full station lockdown. "We just need to reach docking bay 12. They emerged from the maintenance passage into a service corridor 1 level above their destination. The lift systems would already be locked down, requiring them to use the emergency ladders to descend to the docking level. "Doctor, can you manage the ladder with Sela?" Lily asked, calculating logistics rapidly. Dr. Alera nodded determinedly. "I've done emergency evacuation drills. We'll manage. Krell, stay between us." Lily instructed the Taurian child. "1 step at a time, always 3 points of contact with the ladder." The descent was agonizingly slow, each child moving with careful deliberation, their small bodies already pushed beyond normal endurance. Lily went first with Mila clinging to her back, constantly checking to ensure the others were managing the difficult climb. When they finally reached the docking level, the security presence was immediate and overwhelming. Armored officers patrolled in groups of 4, checking every passage and compartment. The main corridor to docking bay 12 was completely blocked. "Alternative approach required," Lily murmured, analyzing their options. "External maintenance crawlway." She led them to a small access panel in the corridor wall, using her security override to unseal it. Beyond lay a narrow passage used by maintenance drones to access the station's outer hull, a passage barely large enough for an adult human to navigate in a spacesuit. "This leads directly to the docking bay," she explained quietly. "But it's tight and it's not designed for human transit. Stay close, move exactly as I do." The crawlway was as challenging as she had warned, a claustrophobic tube with minimal lighting, requiring them to wriggle forward on elbows and knees. For the children, the smaller space was actually an advantage, allowing them to move more easily than the adults. Krell took the lead, his natural agility making him an ideal pathfinder through the confined space. After what felt like an eternity of uncomfortable progress, they reached the access point that would open into docking bay 12. Lily pressed her ear against the panel, listening for any indication of security presence inside. Instead, she heard the distinctive hum of Zarvian energy weapons, not Alliance standard issue. Captain Vin's crew was engaged in combat. "Stay here," she instructed the others, checking her own weapon. "I need to assess the situation." Carefully easing the access panel open just enough to see into the bay, Lily observed a tactical standoff. The Zarvian vessel, sleek and distinctive with its organic-looking hull design, was secured at the docking port. At the boarding ramp, Rahl and 2 Zarvian crew members maintained defensive positions against a squad of station security officers. Castiel and the other prisoners were nowhere in sight, presumably already secured aboard the vessel. The security forces were attempting to surround the ship, but the Zarvians' superior defensive positioning made direct assault too costly. Lily activated her secure communicator. "Rawl, this is Aster. We're at the maintenance access port on the eastern side of the bay. 4 to extract, including the children and Dr. Alera." Rawl's response was immediate. "Acknowledged. We will create a diversion to cover your approach. Stand by." Moments later, a series of small detonations erupted at the far end of the docking bay, non-lethal concussive charges designed to disorient rather than injure. As the security team responded to the new threat, Rawl and one Zarvian crew member broke from their position, moving with incredible speed toward the maintenance access point. "Now," Lily urged, pushing the panel fully open. "Move quickly to Officer Jen. Don't stop for anything." Dr. Alera went first with Sela, then Krell, each running the short distance to where Rawl waited to cover them. Lily followed with Mila, her weapon drawn and ready as she protected their rear. The security team noticed the movement too late to intercept. By the time they redirected their attention, Rawl had already guided the first group onto the ship's boarding ramp. Lily sprinted the final distance with Mila clutched protectively against her chest, Rawls covering fire, ensuring no pursuit could follow. "Everyone aboard," Rawl confirmed as they reached the safety of the ship. "Captain, we are complete." The boarding ramp began retracting even before they had fully entered the vessel, the ship's engines powering up with a deep resonant hum that vibrated through the deck plating. Through the closing hatch, Lily caught a final glimpse of the docking bay, and Commander Voss himself arriving with additional security forces, his expression contorted with fury as he witnessed their escape. Then the hatch sealed completely, and the distinctive sensation of a ship breaking free of docking clamps rippled through the hull. "Brace for emergency departure," a calm Zarvian voice announced over the internal communication system, presumably Captain Venn. "Inertial dampeners at maximum." Despite the warning, the acceleration as the ship tore away from Arctis Station was jarring. Lily held Mila securely, ensuring the child wasn't thrown by the sudden movement. Around them, the Zarvian crew moved with practiced efficiency, securing systems and monitoring the tactical situation. "Station defensive systems activating," someone reported from the bridge. "Tractor beams attempting. Lock. Deploying countermeasures," Captain Venn's voice responded. "Transitioning to stealth propulsion." The ship's vibration changed subtly as it switched to secondary engines designed for evasion rather than raw power. The lighting dimmed momentarily, then stabilized at a lower intensity. "We have cleared immediate station control range," Captain Venn announced after several tense minutes. "Stealth systems fully engaged. Detection probability reduced to minimal levels." Only then did Lily allow herself to relax slightly, looking around to assess their situation. The children were huddled together on a padded bench, Dr. Alera attending to them with supplies from a Zarvian medical kit. Rawl stood nearby, his posture alert, but his expression showing visible relief at their successful extraction. "The prisoners?" Lily asked him. "Secured in the detention compartment," he confirmed. Castiel attempted to offer Captain Venn a substantial bribe for his release. She was not receptive to his proposal. A ghost of a smile touched Lily's lips at this understatement. "And our evidence?" "All secured, including the implant data and shipping records. I have transmitted an encrypted copy to Admiral Way at Alliance Central Command, using Zarvian diplomatic channels to bypass standard communication protocols." "Admiral Way?" Lily raised an eyebrow. "Not Admiral Sorensen?" "Upon reviewing the evidence, I determined that the conspiracy might extend further into Alliance Command than initially suspected," Rawl explained. "Admiral Way has no connection to the series of mining operations or the sectors involved in our investigation." Lily nodded approvingly. "Good thinking. Where are we headed?" "The Zarvian Embassy station in the Proximus system," Rawl replied. "Neutral territory with sufficient security to protect our witnesses and evidence until Alliance Central Command can send trusted representatives." The pieces were falling into place. a clear path forward emerging from what had seemed like an impossible situation. Yet Lily knew their journey was far from complete. The conspiracy they had uncovered had deep roots and powerful protection. Bringing it fully into the light would require sustained effort and significant risk. She moved to check on the children, kneeling beside them with a gentle smile. "You're safe now," she assured them. "No one on this ship will hurt you." Krell studied her with his solemn gaze. What will happen to us? It was the question Lily had been anticipating and dreading. These children had been torn from their homes, subjected to terrible trauma, and now faced an uncertain future in a galaxy that had already failed them once. "First, we make sure you're healthy," she began. "Dr. Alera will remove those implants, and you'll receive proper medical care. But after that," Sela pressed, her luminous eyes showing a wisdom beyond her years. "Where will we go?" Raul joined them, kneeling alongside Lily. "We will search for any family you may still have," he said gently. "And while that process unfolds, you will be under the protection of both Alliance and Zarvian authorities." The answer was diplomatic but incomplete, avoiding the harder truth. Orphaned alien children had few advocates in the bureaucratic systems of interstellar governance. Without intervention, they would likely be processed through impersonal refugee protocols, assigned to overcrowded group facilities until adulthood, if they were lucky. Lily made a decision then, one that had been forming in her subconscious since she first discovered the children in that cargo container. "And if finding your families proves difficult," she added, meeting each child's gaze in turn, "Officer Jen and I will ensure you have a safe place to live, with people who care about you." Raul glanced at her, surprise evident in his expression before understanding dawned. With a slight nod, he affirmed her unspoken commitment. "Indeed, you will not be abandoned again." The promise was made without full consideration of the practical challenges it would entail, the regulatory hurdles, the logistical complications, the personal adjustments required. Yet Lily felt no hesitation, only certainty that this was the right path forward. Dr. Alera approached, carrying a portable medical scanner. "The children should rest now," she suggested. "Their bodies are still processing the sedatives, and the stress of our escape has depleted their energy reserves." "Quarters have been prepared," Captain Venn announced, entering the compartment. The Zarvian captain was tall, even by her species standards, with a distinctive silver-blue skin and cranial ridge characteristic of her people. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Zarvian diplomatic fleet, an elite division separate from standard military forces. "Thank you, Captain," Lily acknowledged, "for everything. You've taken significant risk to assist us." Captain Venn's expression remained neutral, but her violet eyes conveyed understanding. "Officer Jin served with honor during our joint operations against the Thoraxian Collective. His request for assistance carried the weight of the Zarvian oath, a commitment my crew and I respect." She inclined her head slightly. "Besides, the trafficking of children violates principles held sacred by all civilized species. Your actions honor the true spirit of the Alliance, if not its current leadership." With the captain's guidance, they settled the children into comfortable quarters designed for diplomatic passengers. The Zarvian vessel, primarily used for transporting officials between systems, offered amenities far beyond standard military transport. Each child received a sleeping chamber adjusted to their species' preferred environmental conditions, with Dr. Alera's quarters adjacent to monitor their recovery. Lily found herself reluctant to leave them, standing at the threshold of the compartment long after they had fallen asleep. "They will be safe here," Raul assured her, sensing her concern. "Captain Venn has assigned security protocols equivalent to those protecting Zarvian governmental officials. It's not their physical safety that worries me," Lily admitted, finally turning away from the doorway. "It's everything else. The trauma they've experienced, the loss of their homes and families, the uncertainty of their future. Concerns that cannot be addressed in a single day," Raul observed, guiding her toward the ship's observation lounge where they could speak privately. "But they have already shown remarkable resilience, and they're no longer alone." The observation lounge offered a panoramic view of space, currently showing the distant stars of the Proxima system, which they were approaching under stealth protocols. The vessel's advanced propulsion systems allowed for rapid transit without conventional hyperspace signatures that might be tracked. "We should reach the Zarvian Embassy station in approximately 6 hours," Rawl noted, checking the navigational display. "Admiral Wei has acknowledged our transmission and is dispatching a trusted team to meet us there." Lily nodded absently, her thoughts still focused on the sleeping children. "Will we promise them about ensuring they have a safe place if their families can't be located? You understand what that might mean. That we may need to assume responsibility for their care and upbringing," Rawl replied directly. "Yes, I understood the implication. It wasn't something we discussed beforehand," Lily acknowledged. "I should have consulted you before making such a commitment on both our behalves." "It was the right commitment to make," Rawl said simply. "Among my people, there's a concept called Kvarithnara, the responsibility that falls to those who witness suffering. It holds that when fate places vulnerable beings in your path, you become bound to their welfare through the act of witnessing their need. On Earth, we might call that being in the right place at the wrong time," Lily replied with a hint of grim humor. Then, more seriously, "But I feel it too. That connection. Those children came into our lives for a reason. Then we are aligned in purpose," Rawl concluded, using the phrase that had become something of a touchstone between them. Their conversation was interrupted by Captain Vin's voice over the communication system. "Lieutenant Astor, Officer Jin, we have received an encrypted transmission from Alliance Command. Admiral Wei requests an immediate briefing." The subsequent hours were consumed by detailed reports, explaining their discovery of the trafficked children, documenting the evidence of high-level involvement, and outlining the conspiracy extending to Series A and beyond. Admiral Wei, a stern-faced woman whose reputation for incorruptible service was legendary within Alliance ranks, listened without interruption until they had presented their full findings. "This goes deeper than a rogue operation," she concluded grimly. "The authorization codes used to support Castiel's activities originated from within the Alliance Security Council itself." "How do you want us to proceed, Admiral?" Lily asked, acutely aware that their actions had already placed them outside normal command protocols. "Continue to the Zarvian Embassy station as planned," Wei instructed. "My team will meet you there with the appropriate documentation to formally charge Castiel and his associates. The children will remain under your protection until we can determine the full extent of this conspiracy and ensure there are no further threats to their safety." The authorization was professional and practical, but Lily detected something else in the Admiral's tone, a personal validation of the moral stand they had taken, regardless of the regulations that had been bent or broken in the process. After the communication ended, Lily and Rawl found themselves alone again in the observation lounge, watching. As the distinctive silhouette of the Zarvian Embassy station grew visible against the backdrop of space. The massive structure, a blend of Alliance and Zarvian architectural styles, represented one of the most tangible symbols of cooperation between their peoples following the Thraxian conflict. "We should check on the children before we dock," Lily suggested, rising from her seat. "They'll be frightened by another transition so soon." Rawl accompanied her to the diplomatic quarters where Dr. Alera was already awake and monitoring her young patients. To their surprise, the children were not only awake, but sitting together in what appeared to be animated conversation. "They're discussing their home worlds," Dr. Alera explained with a smile, "comparing the colors of their skies and the taste of their favorite foods. Children have a remarkable capacity to find common ground, even across species." Krell noticed their arrival first, his ridged forehead relaxing slightly at the sight of familiar faces. "Are we almost there?" he asked directly. "Yes," Lily confirmed, sitting down beside the children. "We're approaching the Zarvian Embassy station. It's a safe place where we can rest properly while the Alliance investigates what happened to you." "Will the bad ones be punished?" Sela asked, her luminous eyes serious. "They will face justice," Rawl assured her. "The evidence we have collected will ensure that." Mila, who had spoken little throughout their ordeal, surprised them by asking in her soft voice, "Will we stay together?" All of us. The question carried layers of meaning, concern not just for separation from her companions in adversity, but from the adults who had rescued them. Children who had experienced profound abandonment were understandably wary of new attachments. Yes, Lily promised without hesitation. We'll stay together through this entire process. The simplicity of her answer seemed to satisfy the Mithrani child, who nodded once before leaning against Sela's side in a gesture of trust and comfort. As the ship completed its final approach to the Zarvian embassy station, Lily found herself reflecting on the extraordinary sequence of events that had led to this moment. What had begun as a routine cargo inspection had evolved into a mission that challenged her deepest assumptions about her career, about the alliance she served, and about her own capacity for connection across the boundaries of species and experience. And as she watched Rawl interacting gently with the children, explaining the docking procedures to distract them from their anxieties, she recognized that her perspective on her Zarvian partner had undergone an equally profound transformation. The professional distance she had maintained upon her arrival at Arctis Station had given way to something she hadn't expected to find in this remote assignment: genuine trust and shared purpose. Whatever challenges awaited them in the coming days, the formal investigation, the potential political fallout, the uncertain future of 3 orphaned alien children, they would face them together, aligned in purpose, as Rawl would say. And perhaps that alignment was creating something new, a family forged not through conventional bonds of biology or tradition, but through the choices made when confronted with injustice. It wasn't the outcome Lieutenant Lily Astor had anticipated when she reported for duty at Arctis Station. But watching over the small group that had become unexpectedly precious to her, she couldn't imagine choosing any other path. The days following their arrival at the Zarvian embassy station unfolded with surprising efficiency. Admiral Wei's investigation team, composed of officers personally vetted for their integrity, arrived within hours, taking formal custody of Castiel and his associates while respecting the children's need for stability by allowing them to remain under Lily and Rawl's direct supervision. The medical facilities at the embassy station were exceptional, allowing Dr. Alera to safely remove the control implants from all 3 children with minimal discomfort. The extracted devices were added to the growing body of evidence against the trafficking network. Castiel's interrogation revealed the full scope of the operation, a collaboration between corrupt Alliance officials, private mining interests in the Series A system, and various criminal enterprises that specialized in acquiring labor resources from vulnerable populations. The specific targeting of orphaned alien children had been deliberate. They were less likely to be missed, easier to transport across borders, and had fewer legal protections within Alliance regulatory frameworks. It's been happening for years, Admiral Wei reported grimly during a secure briefing with Lily and Rawl. Possibly since the end of the Thraxian conflict, when so many colony worlds were left devastated and their administrative systems in disarray. How high does the corruption reach? Lily asked, bracing herself for the answer. At least 2 members of the Alliance Security Council have been implicated, Wei confirmed, along with numerous lower-level officials throughout the border regions. The purge will be extensive and painful for the Alliance's reputation. And Commander Voss? Rawl inquired. Arrested this morning. He appears to have been recruited into the operation about a year ago. Financial incentives combined with manipulated intelligence suggesting the program was sanctioned at the highest levels. The revelation was both disturbing and somewhat relieving, suggesting that while the conspiracy was widespread, it hadn't completely corrupted the Alliance's fundamental structures. There were still leaders like Admiral Wei who remained committed to the ideals upon which the interspecies coalition had been founded. As promised, Lily and Rawl maintained constant presence with the children throughout this process, dividing their time between assisting the investigation and ensuring their young charges received the care and attention they needed. The embassy station's cultural exchange center proved particularly valuable, providing educational activities tailored to each child's species and developmental stage, while encouraging social interaction in a safe environment. 2 weeks after their arrival, Admiral Wei requested a private meeting with the 2 officers. Her expression as they entered her temporary office was uncharacteristically gentle. "The formal commendations for your actions will be issued next week," she began without preamble, "along with promotions for both of you, should you choose to accept them." "Thank you, Admiral," Lily responded automatically, though the recognition felt secondary to the more pressing matters at hand. "Has there been progress on identifying the children's families?" Wei's expression confirmed what they had already begun to suspect. "We've completed thorough searches of survivor registries from all 3 home regions. I'm afraid the news is not what we hoped for." She activated a holographic display showing detailed reports on each child's background. Krell's colony on Taurian Prime was completely destroyed in a Thoraxian raid. No immediate family member survived. Seela's coastal settlement on Eridani 4 was abandoned following environmental collapse. Residents were evacuated to various refugee centers, but no records match her genetic markers among living Eridanis. And Mila's case is perhaps the most difficult. Her Mithrani community was so isolated that formal documentation barely existed before they were attacked by resource pirates. The confirmation of what they had feared settled heavily in the room. 3 children, the last survivors of their communities, with no living relatives to claim them. "What happens to them now?" Rahl asked, though he likely already knew the formal answer. "Standard protocol would place them in Alliance custody for processing through the Interspecies Adoption Registry," Wei replied. "However, given the sensitive nature of their case and the trauma they've experienced." She paused, studying them both carefully. "There is another option, one that would require significant commitment from both of you." Lily and Rahl exchanged glances, a wordless communication passing between them. "We're prepared to assume guardianship," Lily stated firmly. "That was our intention from the beginning." "Permanent guardianship," Wei clarified, "what humans traditionally call adoption, creating a legal family unit with all associated responsibilities and rights." "Yes," Rahl confirmed without hesitation. "We are aligned in this purpose." Wei nodded, something like approval warming her usually stern features. "I thought you might say that. I've taken the liberty of preparing the necessary documentation, with some special provisions to accommodate your unique situation." She slid a data crystal across the desk. "This grants preliminary approval for multi-species adoption under the Alliance Special Circumstances Protocol, with expedited processing due to the security considerations involved." The administrative efficiency was unexpected but deeply appreciated. Navigating the bureaucracy of interspecies adoption typically took months, if not years. "There is, however, one additional consideration," Wei continued. "The legal framework for joint guardianship by unrelated individuals from different species is limited. The process would be significantly streamlined if you were to establish a formal partnership recognized by Alliance family law." The implication hung in the air between them, a suggestion of marriage or whatever equivalent their respective cultures might recognize. "We'll need to discuss that aspect privately," Lily responded carefully, conscious of the personal boundaries such a decision would involve. "Of course," Wei agreed. "Take whatever time you need. The preliminary guardianship is approved regardless of how you choose to proceed with the partnership question." As they left the Admiral's office, data crystal in hand, Lily found herself struggling to process the magnitude of what was unfolding. In less than a month, her life had transformed completely, from solitary military officer to potential parent of 3 alien children, with implications for her relationship with Rahl that neither of them had anticipated when they were first partnered at Arctis Station. "Your thoughts are troubled," Rahl observed as they walked through the embassy station's central promenade, making their way back to the residential section where the children were engaged in educational activities. "Not troubled," Lily corrected. "Just adjusting. This is happening faster than I expected." "Does the pace concern you?" he asked. "We could request additional time to consider the formal adoption." "No," she replied immediately. "I have no doubts about the children. It's the other part, the partnership suggestion, that feels sudden." Rahl was quiet for several steps, considering her words. "In Zarvian tradition," he finally said, formal partnerships often begin from shared purpose rather than romantic attachment. The concept of kvaddith, souls aligned in meaningful work, is considered the strongest foundation for lasting connection. That's not so different from human military marriages, Lily acknowledged. Many start from shared experience and mutual respect rather than conventional romance. They paused at a viewport, watching as a diplomatic vessel docked in the distance. The stars beyond remained constant, unchanging witnesses to the transformations occurring in their lives. If we were to consider such an arrangement, Rawl continued carefully, it would be a practical decision to support our commitment to the children. But I would not wish you to feel obligated by circumstance. Lily turned to face him directly, studying the features that had once seemed so alien to her. The silvery blue skin, the distinctive cranial ridge, the violet eyes, all had become familiar, even comforting, in the weeks they had worked side by side. When I first arrived at Arctis Station, she said thoughtfully, I saw our differences as barriers. Now, she smiled slightly. Now I think perhaps they're strengths. We bring different perspectives, different skills to this challenge. A compliment, Rawl suggested. Greater together than separate. Exactly. Lily found herself remarkably comfortable with the direction their conversation was taking. So yes, I think a formal partnership makes sense for the children and perhaps for us as well. Something softened in Rawl's expression, a subtle change that Lily might not have noticed weeks ago, but which she now recognized as profound emotion by Zarvian standards. Then we are aligned in this purpose too, he said simply. Their arrival at the education center interrupted any further discussion. The moment they entered, all three children looked up from their activities, faces brightening with recognition and welcome. Krell immediately approached, his natural role as spokesperson for the group evident. We learn about different planets today, he announced proudly. Teacher MEV showed us where our homes were in the star maps. That sounds fascinating, Lily encouraged, kneeling to his level as she always did when speaking with the children. Did you see Earth and Zarvia too? Yes. They're much closer to each other than our worlds were. His expression turned serious. Admiral Wei came to talk to us earlier. She said you might have important news. Lily glanced at Rawl, who nodded encouragingly. Together, they gathered all three children and moved to a quiet corner of the center where they could speak privately. We've been searching for your families, Lily began gently, looking for any relatives who might have survived when your homes were lost. The children's expressions suggested they already anticipated what would follow. Sela reached out to hold Mila's hand, while Krell straightened his posture as if bracing for difficult news. We couldn't find any direct family members, Rawl continued, his tone gentle but honest, which means decisions need to be made about your future, where you will live and who will care for you. Will they separate us? Sela asked, the fear evident in her luminous eyes. No, Lily assured her firmly. That's what we wanted to discuss with you. Officer Jen and I have asked permission to become your permanent guardians, to create a family together, all five of us. The concept seemed to take a moment to register with the children. Krell was the first to respond, his ridged forehead furrowing in concentration. You want to be our parents? He clarified. Yes, Rawl confirmed. If that will be acceptable to you. Where would we live? Sela asked practically. That's something we need to decide together, Lily explained. Admiral Wei has offered us several options depending on what we think would work best for everyone. Mila, who had been listening silently, suddenly spoke up. Would you stay with us forever? Not just until we're grown. The question cut straight to the heart of what the children truly needed. Not just physical safety or practical care, but the assurance of permanent emotional connection after experiencing such profound abandonment. Forever, Lily promised, her voice warm with certainty. Family is forever. The Mithrani child studied their faces for a long moment, then nodded once. A gesture of solemn acceptance that carried more weight than any elaborate declaration could have. Krell looked at his companions, then back to the adults. We want to stay with you, he announced, clearly speaking for all three. You saved us. You didn't let the bad ones take us. You're already our family." The simplicity of his declaration brought unexpected emotion welling up in Lily's throat. Children saw with clarity what adults often complicated: the essential truth that family was created through action and commitment, not merely circumstance or biology. "Then it's decided," Rawl said, his own voice carrying unusual warmth. "We will complete the formal process, but in all ways that matter, we are already family." In the days that followed, the administrative details fell into place with surprising ease, facilitated by Admiral Way's influence and the special circumstances of their case. Lily and Rawl formalized their partnership in a simple ceremony that honored both human and Zarvian traditions, a practical arrangement that nonetheless carried emotional significance neither had fully anticipated. The question of where they would live was resolved through a creative solution. Admiral Way offered them command of a new interspecies outreach station being established in a neutral sector, a position that would utilize their unique experience while providing stability for their newly formed family. 1 month after their harrowing escape from Arctis Station, Lieutenant Lily Astor stood on the observation deck of their transport vessel, watching as the outreach #human and alien officer uncover smuggled alien kids who desperately need parents. The dim, flickering lights of Arctis Station cast long shadows across the polished metal floors. Lieutenant Lily Astor stopped to adjust her uniform collar, the fabric still stiff and unfamiliar against her neck. It had been only 3 standard weeks since her transfer from Earth's orbital defense platform, and she still felt like an outsider on this remote outpost straddling the boundary between 2 galactic sectors. "Another thrilling day of cargo inspections awaits," she muttered to herself, checking the holographic manifest on her wrist display. After years of active military service and distinguished combat during the Rigel Offensive, being assigned to border security felt like a demotion. But the post-war Galactic Alliance needed humans integrated throughout the system, especially in formerly contested territories. The station's curving corridor opened into the central hub, a massive dome-shaped chamber where various alien species moved with purpose. Lily observed them all with professional detachment: the tall, willowy Vintaxi with their iridescent skin, the stocky Greenland merchants bartering loudly, and standing by the security checkpoint, her new partner. Officer Raul Jin stood a full head taller than most humans. His distinctly Zarvian features, silver-blue skin, elongated cranium with a slight ridge, and those penetrating violet eyes, made him impossible to miss. Unlike many of his kind who favored loose-fitting ceremonial garb, Raul wore the standard Alliance security uniform, though tailored to accommodate his physiology. "Lieutenant Astor," he greeted her with a formal nod, his voice carrying that distinct Zarvian harmonic quality. "I trust you've reviewed today's inspection schedule. 7 cargo vessels, 3 passenger transports, and a diplomatic shuttle," Lily replied, not bothering to check her notes. Her eidetic memory was one reason she'd advanced quickly through Earth's military ranks. Starting with the cargo hauler Distant Dawn that docked at 0600 hours. Rawl raised a brow ridge, a gesture he must have picked up from working with humans. "Efficient as always, Lieutenant. Just doing my job." Officer Jin, she couldn't quite keep the edge from her voice. Working with non-humans was still new territory for her. Growing up during Earth's isolationist period had left its mark, despite her best efforts to embrace the Alliance's integrationist policies. They walked together toward the docking bays, maintaining a professional distance that mirrored the invisible gulf between their worlds. The Zarvians had been Earth's reluctant allies during the recent conflict, their strategic brilliance turning the tide against the Thoraxian collective. But old suspicions died hard. "Commander." Voss's holographic projection appeared before them as they approached the security console. The station commander's weathered human face looked haggard, even in the blue glow of the projection. "Lieutenant, officer, a word before you begin your inspection route." Voss's image flickered slightly. "Intelligence reports indicate increased smuggling activity in this sector. The cessation of hostilities has created opportunities for less savory enterprises." Lily straightened. "Weapons smuggling, sir?" "Possibly. Or banned technology. Maybe even biologicals. Voss shrugged. Whatever brings the highest profit margin. Just keep your eyes open and don't take anything at face value. Post-war transitions are always messy affairs. We will be thorough, Commander, Rahl assured him, his tone calm and measured. As the projection dissolved, Lily glanced at her Zarvian counterpart. You've been stationed here longer. What's your assessment of the smuggling situation? Rahl's expression remained unreadable. Arctis Station has always been a waypoint for illicit trade. Its position at the junction of multiple hyperspace lanes makes it ideal for such activities. However, I have noted certain irregularities in recent months. Cargo manifests that don't match actual tonnage. Unusual power signatures from supposedly empty holds. And the station security has done what about this? Lily asked, unable to mask her skepticism. Investigations are ongoing. Rahl replied diplomatically, but something in his tone suggested frustration. Bureaucracy moves slowly, especially with multi-species oversight. They reached Docking Bay 7 where the Distant Dawn was secured. The cargo vessel was a patchwork affair, clearly once a standard Martian hauler that had been modified extensively with alien technology. Its hull bore the scars of countless micrometeor impacts and hasty repairs. The ship's captain, a lanky human with cybernetic enhancements visible along his jawline, greeted them with the practiced smile of someone used to inspections. Officers, welcome aboard the Dawn. All our paperwork is in order. We'll be the judge of that, Lily replied, accepting the data crystal he offered. She inserted it into her scanner, reviewing the ship's manifest while Rahl conducted a visual inspection of the main cargo hold. The manifest listed agricultural supplies bound for the mining colonies in the Epsilon sector. Standard fare, seed stocks, soil enrichment compounds, hydroponics equipment. Nothing that would trigger any alerts. Everything appears in order, she announced, but noticed Rahl had grown very still near the rear of the cargo bay. His head was slightly tilted, a Zarvian gesture indicating concentration. Lieutenant, he called quietly, would you verify something for me? Lily approached, noting the way Rahl's gaze was fixed on a particular container separated from the others. It was unmarked, unlike the rest of the cargo, which bore clear destination codes. This container, Rahl said softly. Do you detect anything unusual? Lily activated her scanner again, sweeping it across the container. The readings showed normal atmospheric conditions inside, standard metal composition for the exterior, and nothing triggering chemical alerts. But there was something odd about the energy signature, a faint fluctuation that didn't match typical stasis fields used for agricultural preservation. Power signature doesn't match the manifest, she confirmed. Captain, she called out, what's in this unmarked container? The captain's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused. Just special soil samples. Requires its own containment protocols. His tone remained casual, but Lily noticed his stance had shifted subtly, weight balanced for quick movement. Rahl placed a hand on the container's surface. Lily knew that Zarvians had heightened tactile sensitivity. They could detect vibrations and temperature variations imperceptible to humans. There's movement inside, Rahl stated, his voice dropping to a whisper only Lily could hear. And an energy barrier consistent with restraints, not preservation fields. Lily's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm. Captain, we're going to need this container opened. Now, the captain's artificial smile vanished. That requires special authorization. The soil samples are extremely sensitive to contamination. Override code Aster, Alpha 774, Lily stated firmly. Station security protocol gives us full authority to inspect any container when irregularities are detected. For a moment, tension crackled in the recycled air of the cargo bay. The captain's cybernetic eye continued its rhythmic whirring, his organic eye narrowing. Then, with a shrug that seemed too casual, he approached the container. Your responsibility if the samples are compromised, he muttered, inputting a complex sequence into the container security panel. As the container seal hissed open, Lily and Rahl positioned themselves. Strategically, a coordination that came naturally despite their short time working together. The front panel slid away, revealing the contents within. What Lily saw made her blood run cold. Huddled in the corner of the container, surrounded by sophisticated restraint fields, were three small figures. Children. Alien children. Their species varied. One with the characteristic amber skin and elongated limbs of the Eridani, another with the distinctive facial ridges of a juvenile Taurian, and the third so malnourished it was difficult to determine its species. Their eyes, whether large and luminous or small and compound, all reflected the same emotion that transcended species barriers: fear. "What the hell is this?" Lily demanded, fury burning through her veins as she turned toward the captain. The man had already bolted for the exit. Raul reacted with incredible speed, his long legs carrying him forward in fluid strides. He caught the captain by the shoulder, spinning him around and pinning him against the wall with one arm. "Explain," Raul commanded, his usual calm demeanor replaced by controlled intensity. I was just transporting cargo," the captain stammered. "I didn't ask questions." Lily approached the container, holstering her weapon to appear less threatening to the terrified children. The restraint fields hummed with energy, sophisticated technology designed to prevent escape without causing physical damage. These weren't crude bindings. They were expensive systems typically used in high-security detention facilities. "This isn't some backwater smuggling operation," she said. "These are military-grade restraints." She carefully deactivated the fields using her security override. The children remained frozen in place, too frightened to move even after the glowing barriers disappeared. "It's okay," she said softly, lowering herself to their eye level. "You're safe now." The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. These children were far from home, victims of unknown circumstances, and now in the custody of two officers who had no immediate protocol for handling such a situation. Raul maintained his hold on the captain, but had modulated his restraining technique to be secure without causing pain, typical Zarbian precision. "Who hired you?" he asked, his voice quiet but unyielding. The captain swallowed hard. "Just a broker. Calls himself Castiel Blackmoon. Operates somewhere in the Rigel system. I never met him in person. All communications were encrypted. And what exactly were you transporting these children for?" Lily asked, struggling to keep her rage contained. "I don't ask questions," the captain insisted, desperation edging into his voice. The pay was triple standard rates. "Pick up at Outpost 37, deliver to Arctis Station, docking Bay 19 at 2,200 hours tonight. That's all I know." Lily and Raul exchanged glances. Docking Bay 19 was primarily used for long-haul transports to the outer colonies, places where oversight was minimal and regulations were loosely enforced at best. "We need to report this to Commander Voss immediately," Lily said, activating her comm unit. The smallest child, the one whose species Lily couldn't identify, made a soft clicking sound that might have been a whimper. The sound struck something deep within her, cutting through years of military discipline and emotional compartmentalization. "And we need to get these children medical attention," she added, her voice softening slightly. Raul nodded in agreement, his violet eyes meeting hers with newfound respect. In that moment, a bridge began to form across the gulf that had separated them, a shared purpose that transcended their differences. Neither of them realized yet how far that purpose would take them, nor what it would cost. Commander Voss's office was Spartan by Alliance standards, a deliberate choice to project neutrality in a station that served as nexus point for dozens of species. The commander himself sat behind a desk of polished Martian basalt, his expression unreadable as Lily and Raul delivered their report. "Child trafficking," Voss said flatly when they finished. "Not what I expected when I mentioned smuggling activity." "Sir, we need to mobilize security teams to docking Bay 19, Lily urged. "If we can intercept whoever was meant to receive these children." "I've already dispatched a team," Voss interrupted, raising a hand. "But discretion is paramount. We can't risk creating a diplomatic incident without knowing which powers might be involved." Raul stepped forward, his posture formal but his tone insistent. "The children require immediate medical attention, Commander, and we must determine their origins to begin repatriation procedures." Voss tapped his fingers on the desk. Medical attention, yes. Dr. Alera will examine them privately in Quarantine Bay 3. As for repatriation, he hesitated. That will require coordination with Central Alliance authorities. These processes take time. Time, during which evidence could disappear, Lily pointed out. Sir, with respect, this operation is too sophisticated to be the work of some fringe group. The restraint technology alone suggests high-level involvement, which is precisely why we need to proceed carefully, Lieutenant. Voss replied, an edge creeping into his voice. The station's secure housing unit will hold the children while we process this situation according to Alliance protocols. Something in his tone triggered Lily's instincts, the same instincts that had kept her alive during countless combat situations. She glanced at Rawl and saw a slight tension in his jaw that suggested he felt it too. Commander, Rawl said carefully, the secure housing unit is primarily designed for adult detainees. Perhaps a more appropriate accommodation. Your concern is noted, Officer Jin. Voss cut him off. But station resources are limited. The children will be safe, fed, and monitored. That's the best we can provide while following proper channels. He stood, signaling the end of the discussion. I'll handle the communications with Alliance Central. You two secure the captain for formal interrogation and file your reports. As they left the commander's office, Lily felt a growing unease. That didn't feel right, she murmured once they were out of earshot. Indeed, Rawl agreed, his voice equally low. The commander seemed unusually eager to contain rather than investigate. And sending the kids to secure housing? That's where we put drunk passengers and quarrelsome merchants, not traumatized children. They rounded a corner, finding a quiet alcove where station surveillance was minimal, a detail Lily had noted during her first week aboard. I served under Voss in the Rigel campaign, she said. He was always thorough, methodical in pursuing every angle. This dismissive attitude doesn't track with the officer I knew. Rawl considered this. Perhaps he faces pressure from above. Or perhaps he left the implication hanging. You don't think he's involved? Lily asked, shocked at the suggestion. I think we should proceed with caution and keep our observations to ourselves for now, Rawl replied diplomatically. Zarvian philosophy teaches that truth reveals itself through patterns over time. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a slender woman in a science division uniform. Dr. Serena Alera had the characteristic pale complexion of someone who spent too much time under artificial light. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, emphasizing her sharp features and alert eyes. Lieutenant, officer, she greeted them with a quick nod. I've just examined your discoveries. The children, Lily corrected firmly. How are they? Malnourished, but stable, Dr. Alera replied. They've been sedated, likely to keep them quiet during transport. The Eridani child shows signs of previous medical experimentation. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but concerning nonetheless. Her professional demeanor slipped slightly, revealing genuine concern. They're terrified, especially of adults in uniforms. Has secure housing been prepared for them? Rawl asked, his tone carefully neutral. Dr. Alera's expression tightened. Yes, on the commander's orders. I've objected on medical grounds. They need a healing environment, not a cell, but I was overruled. She glanced around before continuing in a lower voice. Something isn't right about this. I've treated trafficking victims before during my rotation on Ganymede Station. Standard protocol is immediate psychological support and specialized care, not detention. Can you stall the transfer? Lily asked. I can claim they need 24 hours of observation for possible contagion risks, the doctor replied. But that's the most I can do without raising flags. Rawl straightened, his full height impressive in the station's confined corridor. That may provide sufficient time for us to gather more information. Dr. Alera nodded sharply. I'll do what I can, but be careful who you trust. With that, she turned and strode away, white coat billowing behind her. We need to find out more about this Castile Black Moon, Lily said once they were alone again. And who was supposed to receive those kids in Docking Bay 19? I have access to historical shipping manifests, Rawl offered. Perhaps we can identify patterns that would reveal connections. And I can pull surveillance footage from the docking bays, Lily added. Cross-reference arrivals and departures with any cargo weight discrepancies. They began walking toward the security center, their steps naturally falling into rhythm. Lieutenant, Rawls said suddenly, if we discover evidence of high-level involvement, how far are you willing to go to ensure justice? Lily didn't hesitate. All the way, Officer Jen. Those children deserve nothing less. Rawl nodded, satisfaction evident in his posture. Then we are aligned in purpose. My people have a saying, when paths converge in darkness, the light they create reveals the truth. On Earth, we just say 2 heads are better than 1, Lily replied with the ghost of a smile. Less poetic, but same idea. For the first time since her arrival on Arctis Station, Lieutenant Lily Astor felt something unexpected, the foundation of trust being laid between herself and her alien partner. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The security operations center hummed with activity as personnel from various Alliance species monitored the countless systems that kept Arctis Station functioning. Lily and Rawl claimed adjacent workstations in a quiet corner, their actions deliberately casual as they began their unauthorized investigation. Accessing manifests from the past 6 standard months, Rawl murmured, his long fingers dancing across the holographic interface, focusing on vessels with route patterns similar to the distant dawn. Lily nodded, her own attention on the surveillance archives. I'll start with Docking Bay 19, see if there's any recurring traffic that might be connected to our smuggler friends. They worked in focused silence, the kind that develops naturally between professionals with a shared mission. Occasionally one would murmur a finding or observation, the other responding with a thoughtful suggestion or question. The rhythm of their collaboration felt surprisingly natural despite their different backgrounds and training methodologies. After 2 hours of intensive research, patterns began to emerge. Look at this, Lily said quietly, highlighting a series of entries in her display. Over the past 4 months, there have been 7 instances of ships docking with declared cargo that underwent mid-transit manifest updates, always reducing their officially declared mass. Rawl nodded thoughtfully, and I've identified 12 vessels that made unscheduled stops at remote outposts before arriving here. Their power consumption readings during transit suggest they were operating with fuller cargo holds than declared. Cross-referencing now, Lily said, merging their findings into a single analysis. 6 matches. 6 vessels that both adjusted their manifests and made suspicious stops. She enlarged the image of one ship in particular. The Starwood Venture, docked here 3 times, most recently 8 days ago, and departed each time for the mining outposts in the series A System, Rawl added, his violet eyes narrowing slightly. A region notorious for minimal oversight and significant demand for labor. The implication hung heavy between them. Child trafficking often led to forced labor in remote locations where questions weren't asked and inspections were rare. We need to see those children again, Lily decided. They might recognize names or images that could help us connect these dots. Dr. Alera's observation period gives us the opportunity, Rawl agreed. But we should proceed with caution. I have observed increased security personnel in the medical wing, ostensibly for the children's protection. Lily's lips pressed into a thin line, or their containment. They made their way to Quarantine Bay 3, maintaining the appearance of officers conducting routine follow-up. The medical bay doors parted with a soft hiss, revealing Dr. Alera examining readings on a holographic display. Lieutenant, officer, she greeted them, her voice professional, but her eyes communicating wariness. I was just reviewing the children's biometric data. Any changes in their condition? Rawl inquired. They're recovering from the sedatives, the doctor replied. The Taurian child has begun speaking, mostly asking about home and family. Her expression softened momentarily. Children show remarkable resilience across all species. Lily stepped closer to the isolation chamber's viewing panel. Inside, the 3 children sat together on a medical bed designed for adult patients. The smallest one, whom Dr. Alera had identified as a Mithrani, a rare species from the Outer Rim, was huddled against the Eridani child. The Taurian, slightly larger than the others, seemed to be keeping watch, his ridged forehead furrowed in concentration. Have you been able to identify their planets of origin? Lily asked. Dr. Ilera hesitated, then activated a private channel on their communication devices, a function typically used for sensitive patient information. The Taurian child is named Krell. Her voice came through clearly on the secure frequency. He says they were all taken from an orphanage outpost in the Proxima system after a raid by what he described as metal face men. They've been transported multiple times, sedated between transfers. Has he mentioned any names? Destinations? Raul asked. Only one name that seemed to Friday.